Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Good Guy Show. I'm Tony, he's Jeremy, and we're here for another hour of colossal entertainment.
Wow, colossal! That's beautiful because this is a continuation. We have, if you noticed,
If you were here last month,
well,
if you tuned in last month,
sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to go.
You know we had a guest,
Right?
The lovely and talented Bill Morrison.
Bill Morrison's here.
Was here.
That's right.
And well, he's back.
Yeah. Also, people won't be thrown out because usually our clothes don't change. We're usually wearing the same thing. So yeah. So the great Bill Morrison's here. Hey, we go. He's
You know
back.
what?
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Okay, can you?
You know what?
No,
I pressed the applause button, but I forgot I muted my
That's
computer.
fine. No big deal.
I thought,
Gosh.
I thought it was a little weak.
Well,
Used to a lot more,
you used to a lot more accolades, or is it more behind the scenes? Like, hey, that Bill guy's pretty good.
He's a cartoonist, sir. When he enters a room, people throw rose petals on the floor. There's just a lot of respect there.
Yeah. Well, that's not how you pay the bills, Tony. Maybe that's what we're doing.
Well, that's not how I pay the bills.
That's what we're doing wrong. That's what we're doing wrong. So yeah, we just did a really fun episode with Bill. Getting to know Bill should be the name of this episode. Getting to know Bill. And I mean, dude, you've done such a big history. I really feel bad that I cut you off with your really kind of inspiring. You're at CCS, an adjunct professor at CCS these days.
Oh, at the end of last episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Talked
And you said something really nice and beautiful. I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's figure this out. We're gonna go.
I know that's my fault. I waited until like the last 30 seconds to get pithy.
But no, it was really sweet. It's really sweet, and like the fact that you started as a young artist at CCS, and it's not like you've stuck to it, man. You've done the art, and you've found your path, and you've stuck to it. Whereas I think some people kind of get uninspired and will like get that day job of something that's sort of connected to it, working at like a furniture company or whatever, and then like sort of like lose thing, family, and then that's all of a sudden it's like, and then they retire, and then they come to River's Edge Gallery and they're like, no, I'm an artist. It's like, well, what did you do the last 30 years of your life? Like you weren't working on art, you weren't even sketching or drawing. So it's just, it's kind of, I think it's important to know that it can, if you stick to your guns, you can do it.
It can pay off for you.
Yeah. I had a teacher at CCS that was kind of a villain in my mind for years, because I remember this one day he told the class, he was just kind of pontificating about things, and he said, only 5% of you are ever going to do anything in this business, like in the illustration or advertising business. Maybe 5%. The rest of you are either going to be on the fringes doing paste up, doing production work, or just be hobbyists. You'll just be out of it altogether. And I remember what a bring down that was on the room. Like everybody was just kind of like, first of all, you're our teacher. You're supposed to inspire us and, give us hope for the future. And, it was like he was taking something away from us rather than giving. And I thought about that in recent years, and I realized, well, maybe that was kind of a good thing to hear, because it made me go, well, what do you know? You don't know what I'm capable of. You don't know who I am.
Right.
I'm going to, so maybe I took that as a challenge, and that might have fueled me to, have the energy and the drive to, go out and try to do something.
I mean, that seems to be how it is. Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of have a what if question.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you want to, make a comic book, it's easy enough to, you produce the artwork, and, you do all the production yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You send it to a printer, I can produce a comic in my house,
right,
send it to a printer and have it distributed in myself. If you had that capability back then when you finished school and started looking for work. Would something like that kind of had maybe changed the direction you took?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, it's hard to know for sure, but I think it's definitely possible. I mean, when I look at the world, or, like the landscape of the world that I was trying to get into, trying to break into back then, there were gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Nothing but gatekeepers that you had to get past to be able to do what you wanted to do. And all of that changed, I guess, in the 90s, I guess really with the internet, because, you started having desktop publishing. You can basically do anything you want on the computer. You can do your own music if you're, like doing animation. There's so many other options for artists now. And back then, I think it's like you had it in your head that I'm going to be this one thing. And if I can talk my way into a job, maybe I'll get to do that one thing. With comics, I get asked this all the time. People say, well, you've worked in animation, you've worked in comics. Which do you prefer? And there's not really an easy answer to that. But with animation, like when I worked on Futurama, it's really fun to be a small part of a big thing that people all over the world have seen.
No, what did you do for what exactly did you do with Futurama?
So I was the art director. That was my official title.
Okay.
But that's different for different productions and different projects. So an art director on one project might not be exactly the same job as on another project. Basically, Futurama didn't have an art director. They had nobody with that title. So they asked me when I signed on officially, when the show was up and running, they said, what do you want your title to be? First of all, nobody ever gets asked that question. They give you a title. But they didn't know what to do with me because I worked directly for Matt Groening.
Right.
And we had an animation company, Rough Draft, who had their own crew of artists in different categories. So they had character designers and they had prop designers and they had people whose title was a lot of the things that I did. So I couldn't take one of their titles from them. Like if they gave me a separate title as, say, character designer, it would diminish what they were doing. It would diminish their titles. So they had to come up with something to call me. And I was at a loss. I didn't know. And they said, well, how about art director? And I said, yeah, that sounds better than character designer. Sure.
Yeah.
So you went from Simpsons, then you went to Bongo Comics. Were you still involved with the Simpsons? You were franchised, or were you just only doing licensing and all that merchandise with Bongo and then Bongo Comics, or were you just strictly Bongo Comics?
There was a lot of crossover.
Right.
So when Bongo started, everybody at Bongo was basically freelance.
Okay.
So I got a page rate, even though I was editing or art directing or whatever I was doing on a given book.
And then Futurama did that sort of happen while you were doing Bongo?
While I was at Bongo.
Okay.
So that's why I was saying in the last episode, I had to put Roswell aside because I was editing. I was the editor-in-chief at Bongo.
Okay.
And I was doing my Roswell book on the side for Bongo. But then Futurama came along, and I couldn't do 3 of those things.
Right.
I had to let one of them go, so I had to let Roswell go.
Which was your personal project.
Yeah.
Right.
But Futurama, like I was saying, my title was art director. What I really mostly did was character and prop design. But at one point, the person who was really doing more the job of art director, whose title was co-producer, got pregnant and went on maternity leave, and I took on her duties. And I really, for a while, I was doing the job of art director.
So you're art director, Futurama.
Wait, so you designed characters for Futurama.
Yes.
What are some of the most notable characters that you designed?
One of the ones
Great
that
question,
every time I see her on screen, I smile. She's not like one of the main characters. Her name is Petunia. And
Petunia.
she's like this kind of haggard, middle-aged woman with saggy breasts and always has a cigarette.
Yeah, okay.
Fun.
So yeah, Petunia was mine. Mildred, who's Fry's grandmother in the Roswell that Ends Well episode, I designed her. Some of the celebrity heads in jars, I did, like Rich
cool.
Little and
cool.
George Foreman. Did him. Yeah.
Rich Little and George Rich. Well, yeah, okay. Rich Little is the impressionist from
Right.
all those years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was in the first episode. Or no, I think it was the episode where Bender becomes a wrestler.
Oh yeah.
I think he and Rich Little
when he was the gender bender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rich Little and George Foreman, I think, are doing like commentary. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so now when do you sort of do you ever back off from Bongo Comics? Or is that continually going on while you work with Matt Groening?
I continued until 2012, and at that point I was getting kind of burnt out on editing.
Mm-hmm.
Futurama was done by then, but I wanted to do something different, and I knew that Matt was thinking about a new show beyond Futurama.
Right.
And I also knew that Matt wanted to develop more comics that were beyond The Simpsons. And he wanted to do different genres. He wanted to do horror. He wanted to do adventure, maybe superheroes, but in a weird Matt Groening kind of way. And so I thought, maybe I can take a break from editing the Simpsons and Futurama comics and help Matt kind of focus on that. So I proposed that, and they said, great. But Matt wasn't quite ready to start working on those things. So the one thing he did want me to work on were some comic reader apps for Simpsons and Futurama. So these are apps that you could download on your devices, and you could buy issues of Simpsons or Futurama and read them on your phone. So it had what Comixology used to call a guided view. So it had like kind of our version of that, where you can flip from panel to panel. You can zoom in, zoom out. All of that needed to be developed, and there are different screens that lead into all the different parts of the buying process that I had to design.
But Treehouse of Horrors, was that, which is the famous sort of horror part of The Simpsons, fun whatever. Was that comic book form Bongo first, or was that?
No, it appeared on the show first,
right?
And then I think they'd already done a few of the annual episodes by the time we did our first one, which was 1994.
So okay, so that's my ignorance there right there. I was a figure skater with Disney on Ice, so that's why Bill and I are friends. He worked at Disney and I worked at Disney, and so we do. All right, so also Rivers Edge, he's got to work at Rivers Edge Gallery. Come on out, this is a great time. You're gonna love it. All right. Okay, so Bongo Futurama.
I like how he flips from interviewer to carny.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Shameless self-promoter.
I mean, but listen, the economy's weird, man. I really need everything I can. You know what I mean? Anyways, listen, rent's due. You know what I mean? Okay,
I hear you.
So you're doing this app. Does the app still exist?
They just recently went totally defunct.
Okay.
Like for a while, they were sort of like an abandoned amusement park.
Okay.
So if you had the app and you'd bought issues, you could still read them.
Yeah.
But you couldn't buy new ones. And now it just doesn't
the whole
even
thing
work.
Just gone.
Like all the comics that you bought, you can't even access them.
Screw you.
See, that's why when I was actually working on these apps, I kind of did it under protest because I was not a fan of digital comics.
Yeah, I'm not a fan myself.
Because I said to myself, I mean, they were kind of new, but I said to myself, someday people are going to have these apps and they're not going to be supported anymore by the publishers that,
Interesting.
populated them or, created the comics for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, that happens with your movies too, that you purchase digitally. If the carrier decides they don't want to host that movie anymore, they just get rid of it, and then you're out that film.
And that's why Tony has 250,000 DVDs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my job was to not only develop these things but advertise them. I had to create ads for our comics to get people to buy the app or download the app because the people higher up in our company, not Matt, but the people who were kind of running the business, they wanted us to eventually go all digital. And I thought that was a very, very bad idea. But I found a way to embrace the digital comics, which was I realized that because in order to learn how to develop these apps, I had to I basically downloaded the Comixology app and I started buying comics and reading them to see how they worked. How do you navigate through page to page and panel to panel and all that? And I was doing that mostly on trips. I would take a trip to fly out to a convention and I would read comics on the plane. And I realized, well, digital comics kind of have their place because you don't want to take a bunch of comics with you when you go on a trip.
Nerd, right?
Or when you're sitting, maybe you're waiting for a bus.
Right.
You don't want to pull out a comic and sit there and read a comic. You want to, do it more covertly.
Well, you don't want your value of the comic book that you have.
Well,
you also don't want to.
In this country, reading a comic book in public is akin to punching a baby. It's comics are so frowned upon in America, where you go to Japan or Germany, comics are well accepted.
Well, it's more. You're talking about hentai.
No, I'm talking about comics.
No, look, I mean, for years, Bongo or Simpsons comics were the number 2 selling comic in Germany.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about number 2 humor comic, number 2 comic, period. So Simpsons comics outsold Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, all the superheroes. The only thing we didn't outsell was Mickey Mouse.
No kidding.
So Mickey Mouse and the Simpsons were the top selling.
And that says something because there were no Mickey Mouse comics in the United States.
Sure. Well, that's what tells you about being apologetic about what you did in the 40s for so long. You have to find nice things, So it's good. But
yeah. So anyway,
poor Bill.
I found a way to embrace the digital app, and I actually did an ad that had Comic Book Guy standing in line behind Bart and Lisa at the airport.
Right.
And he's carrying all these short boxes full of his comic collection, which is, absurd. But he's standing there sweating, just carrying this box of these 20 boxes of comics. Bart and Lisa got their iPad and their phone out, and they're standing there laughing in line, reading their comics. And so the headline was, "Take your comic collection with you wherever you go."
Oh.
And so that was my way of making peace with digital comics.
Right. Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so you did so now did anything else happen with Bongo? So they just did The Simpsons, right? And then you had Roswell that you were doing in the back of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Did Bongo escalate from anything other than The Simpsons stuff, or was it just sort of...
Bongo always kind of remained, Matt Groening's creations.
Okay.
Simpsons and Futurama, and then
Okay, so Futurama comics.
Yeah, we did a Futurama comic. We did do a few other creator-owned books. I had another creator-owned book called Heroes Anonymous.
Okay. Yeah.
And Stephanie Gladden, who is one of our regular pencilers, she did a book called Hopster's Tracks. And we had a kind of another imprint of Bongo called Zongo,
Okay.
and it was kind of more underground.
Okay.
So Gary Panter, who is like considered, I guess, an underground cartoonist, but he was also one of the designers on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So he did a comic with us. Mary Fleener did one. So we had this kind of, more weird, more counterculture version of
So you're like
Bongo.
kind of a culty sort of cult, creating cults or
just creating more niche comics
okay.
for people who are just kind of maybe more not into mainstream comics or humor as much, but more into the weird
Sure.
counterculture stuff.
So Bill, while you're doing this, are you're doing like you're doing Disney stuff as well? Like I've seen because you have cells or you've done.
At this point, I wasn't doing Disney.
Okay.
I did start doing Disney again. I mean, I did the Disney movie posters early on, and then I started doing stuff for the gallery program. So the
Okay.
Disney Fine Arts.
Like Donald Duck, you were doing Donald
Was that
Duck.
through the Acme
Yeah.
print?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was through Acme, and I got to know them because I was doing Simpsons prints with them, limited edition things for animation art galleries.
And that wasn't necessarily cells; it was just sort of art for.
Some of them were not production cells, but limited edition cells or Sarah cells,
Right.
but some were like prints on giclée paper.
Oh, giclée.
Giclée.
Which is French for spitting.
Spitting?
It's a fancy. It's a really
Inkjet,
really,
right?
really fancy way to say bubble jet.
Yeah,
Okay.
Inkjet. Yeah.
Giclée.
yeah.
Yeah. Giclée. Yeah. So
Sounds
it
sounds expensive.
Giclée, yeah.
Typically-
Sounds a lot more expensive than bubble printing.
well, typically a Giclée is going to be a UV ink quality paper, typically, but it's now Giclée is just bastardized. People are just taking advantage of that word, Giclée
yeah,
or whatever.
they'll call anything a Giclée.
Do you ever hand embellish any of your Giclée prints?
I have on occasion.
Yeah.
I don't make a practice of it.
Okay. Do you
but
know that?
I do it on request?
Do you know that Thomas Kincaid would, which he didn't really, his family handled it all, but he would, the Korean artist would put all the leaves and stuff in it. So if you ever wanna, use that. Okay. So, okay. So Bill, so you are
I have
doing.
no idea where he was. going.
It doesn't. I'm not going anywhere.
What he's saying
Bill.
is, if you have a hankering, you can employ a factory overseas to hand embellish your
Thank you,
Giclée
Tony.
prints.
Thank you, Tony.
Oh, I see.
I heard a reverb there. I felt like Joel.
Yeah,
Joel was
it
about
sounded
to,
like God was
Joel
going
was
to,
about to talk to us. Right
I was
there.
just going to say it's okay, Bill. At least once or twice an episode, none of us know what the hell Jeremy's trying to say.
Once or twice. I feel honored. Thank you. I thought it was more than that. Okay, I'm just trying to move because listen, Bill, we could do like so much time with Bill. The man's worked. He's worked his tail off.
We
He's
just wrapped up the first year of Good Guys on Wyandotte Connects, and we could probably spend another year's worth of shows.
It's true.
Just talking about Bill's career.
It's true. So I'm sorry. Listen, I never went to school for this. I'm an artist. At Rivers Edge Gallery, you can see Bill's work. No, but okay. So, Bill, I guess I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so, Bongo Comics feature. Now, when do you start doing the Disney stuff? Like, you start doing it while you're
before.
working when you're working with, or
I think I was probably still at Bongo when I did the first of the Disney gallery pieces.
and then what? Do they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? I mean, how's it all?
I think I was already working with them on some Simpsons stuff, and I knew they had the Disney license.
Right.
So I don't really remember, but I might have said, "Hey, I used to do Disney posters. So if you want me to do some Disney stuff, I could."
Okay.
And that's probably what led into it.
Okay. I wanted to break into the Beatles, but I really let's break into the infamous Little Mermaid. I really, for those of you who don't know, there's a banned version of Little Mermaid. Apparently, do you know there's a banned VHS cassette tape of
Is it
cover?
banned?
I don't think it's.
I don't think it's banned.
It was censored
Was it censored?
when they came out with the laser disc version.
Yeah.
Because the VHS came out, and then the laser disc might have come out like a month or two later.
Right.
They retouched the tower.
Okay.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Right.
We are.
yeah.
Yes. This is what we do.
But they retouched the subject of the controversy with like a big starburst effect,
Okay.
so that you can't really see what it is.
So now you're doing Donald Duck. You're doing all sorts of cool characters with Disney. You're working a Bongo. You're like, hey guys, and you're having fun. You're like, making electric coins, some walking around money, as they say, or whatever. And and then how does you start doing Disney posters again?
Well, I wouldn't say posters; they were prints.
Or prints, okay.
Because they were all limited edition, signed and numbered, and all that. But the Little Mermaid thing came earlier.
Okay.
I did, back when I was working with Dave Willardson, I painted the original Little Mermaid one sheet poster. So that's the poster that one sheet. If people don't know, that's just a term they use for it's the size format of the standard movie poster.
Okay.
And so it's the one that was in all the movie theaters.
Right.
And a year later, an art director came to the studio, and he had a painting with him that another artist had done. And it was the Under the Sea scene.
Okay.
And that was going to be the cover for the VHS for the Little Mermaid video. But he had a problem. The reason he came to the studio to talk to my boss was because he'd had this artwork produced, and he showed it to his boss, and his boss really loved the poster that I had done the year before. And he said, "This is fine, but I really would love for this to look like the poster. So find the artist who did the poster and have him or her redraw it and, make it look, make the video cassette look more like this."
Okay.
So because different departments of Disney are in different buildings sometimes and they don't communicate well, it took this guy several weeks to find out where the movie poster image came from. And so he finally found out, it was generated at the Willardson studio. He called up my boss, made an appointment to come and talk to him about having us do the VHS box art. All right. I'm seeing a look on your face like
no, I'm
I
sorry.
lost you.
No, I'm looking at my notes, but yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I'm in.
That's trekking. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was, like in my workspace just painting, but I'm overhearing this meeting going on. And eventually my boss came over and he said, he explained what the art director wanted. And he said, the only problem is it took them so long to find us that they have to go to the printer with final art on Monday. This was, I believe, like a Thursday.
Okay.
So he said, can you work all weekend and get this done so it's ready by Monday morning? And like an idiot, I said yes.
Of course, yeah, sure.
I was young and, I didn't need that much sleep. So I said yes, and I did it. The art director sent over a sketch, and it was a little bit different from the poster. So I had to redraw some things and move some things around. And I remember that I had the original drawing of the castle that I had done for the poster, and I used that for this because it also had the castle in the background behind Ariel's head. So I just traced that in. And, I finished it on time. It went over to Disney Monday morning. I never saw it again.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah, they approved it. They printed it. So the day it came out, I get a phone call from a kid in my church, because I used to work with the youth group in the church.
Okay.
And all the kids knew that I did stuff for Disney. They all thought that was really cool. So this kid called me at work, and that I thought that was, it was a little bit strange because the kids had my number, but they never called me. I gave them my number in case they were having a crisis or something.
Right,
They could call
sure.
and talk. But nobody ever called. So he called, and I was like, yeah, Luke, is everything okay? What's going on? What's wrong? And he said, so you said that you did the Little Mermaid video art, right? You told us that? And I said, yeah. And he said, so you're the one that put the thing in there? And I go, what thing? And he goes, in the castle, the thing. Luke, I have no idea what you're talking about. What thing? And he's like, oh, come on, And Luke, you got to be more specific. What are you talking about? Don't make me say it. Come on. And I go, look, hang on. I have a copy of it here. Let me go get it. So I bring it over to the phone. And I go, okay, Luke, I'm looking at it. What am I supposed to be seeing? And he goes, okay, you see the Little Mermaid?
Oh, we have it up right there.
You see the Little Mermaid?
Good job,
Yeah.
Joe.
Now that's the poster.
Oh, that's the poster.
That's not the video.
That's not the
cassette.
VHS.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there was never
okay.
any controversy, but it's kind of the same
Sure.
layout.
Sure.
So he says, you see the tower that's behind the mermaid's head? And I go,
Right.
yeah. And he goes, well, what does it look like? And I'm sitting there staring at it for a couple of seconds, and finally my eyes got really big because I realized what it looked like. And I said, I don't know, Luke, what do you think it looks like? And he's like, oh, come on. And so I said, all right, I get what you're saying. So, did you just notice this? And he goes, no, they're talking about it on the radio. It's like on a talk radio show. And that was the moment I was like, oh, crap.
Oh.
This could be a problem. So
I mean, I don't know if that's the...
yeah, so that's the video cassette. So you can see it's a little, like the mermaid's pose is a little different, but it's kind of the same thing. She's on a rock with the prince and
Can't see, and I believe...
Castle and Triton and Ursula in the
area
background.
Oh, this area right here with my
yeah.
dirty paint. Yeah, there you go. Well, you listen. So you probably have the copy at home, watching with your kids. It's fine. Whatever.
So there was we always had the TV on. We always worked late at night in the studio, and we had Channel 7 News on, like ABC News, at like 6 o'clock. And they did this tease for an upcoming story about a naughty image in a Little Mermaid video cassette cover. And so my boss is just going, oh my God, we got to watch this. What is going on? What is this? And so we're all watching it. Everyone in the studio, we got our eyes glued. And I actually saw this, I swear. They interviewed this woman in Arizona. So this is like ground zero.
She's the one. Yeah, she's the one that broke. Yeah, right.
For this scandal. They interviewed this lady, and she said her husband brought the video home from the store and popped it into the VHS for the kids to watch. And then he kind of elbowed his wife, and he said, hey, honey, check this out. Look what some degenerate artist did. And he points to this tower that looks like a penis.
Wow.
And he thought it was funny, and she absolutely did not. She got very upset, and she went down to the video store and demanded that they take it off the shelves. And
She might have been the first Karen.
she was. You're right. I'd never thought of that.
That's
She was-
funny.
yeah. But there was actually this pan shot. The film crew went down to the video store, and they did a pan shot across a shelf of Little Mermaid video cassettes, all in brown paper bags with Little Mermaid written in marker.
Wow.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was their compromise. They wouldn't take it off the shelves, but they would, to shut her up, they put it in brown paper bags. And she said she went to Disney and screamed about it to them. and they said they didn't know what she was talking about. They didn't, they wouldn't do anything. So it kind of started dying down. It didn't seem to be touching us as a studio. But the project I was working on was the poster for the Prince and the Pauper Mickey Mouse featurette. It's like a 20-minute Mickey Mouse film. And I just finished the art for that. So the tradition was Dave would take it into Disney and he would show it to the art directors, get notes, and then bring the artwork back to me to make any changes that they wanted. And while he was waiting to talk to them, it was they were building like the new animation building, and they'd had to tear down, I think, another building. So a lot of the offices were in these big trailers. So he was in a trailer to meet with these guys. And so he was close enough, and there were these thin walls that he could hear every word they said. And these two art directors were having a conversation about the Little Mermaid video. And he heard one of them say, "If I ever find out who did it, I'll make sure he never works for Disney again. I'll tell you that." And
Wow.
so Dave starts freaking out because he's like, "Oh my God, this is like," at this point, it had to be like 75% of the studio's business.
Oh man.
We were getting so much work from Disney and Disney products and related things. And so he told me this later. He said, so I was sitting there thinking, maybe I should keep my mouth shut and they'll never find out that it came from my studio. But then he was like, no, that's stupid. They'll find out eventually, and then I'll never hear from them again. They'll just never call. So he thought this might be the only chance I get to defend the artwork. So he interjected himself into the conversation, and he said, hey guys, sorry to butt in, but I couldn't help overhear what you were saying. And I just want you to know that that artwork came from my studio. And, they got this shocked look on their faces. And he said, Bill Morrison painted that. And he said, Bill, he loves Disney. He would never do that. And he said he had to argue with them for a solid 20 minutes to convince them that I did not do it on purpose.
God.
And he said when he left, he felt reasonably sure that they believed him. But it wasn't until they called us for the next job that he breathed a sigh of relief and realized that they believed it.
Well, I'm just grateful that there's been no Disney cucumber movies because
Veggie Tales.
Oh,
that's not
that
Disney.
wasn't Disney. Though.
Yeah, that
All the boys love the Little Mermaid, but not me. I want that big, thick mommy Ursula. The things those tentacles could do. Boing.
there's our 30 minutes.
That's our 30-minute mark, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no, this is fun, man. This is fun to hear. I mean, I heard about that story, back in the day, and then it was like, oh, okay, and then but then meeting you, Bill, it was like, yeah, really, it's just. I mean, anything could be anything, really.
Well, Yeah, I mean, animators.
People are going to see what they want to see.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, animators do have a long history of hiding dirty images into cartoons, but not anymore. I mean, it was back in the days when there was no freeze frame.
Right.
I mean, if you stopped a film going through the projector, the light would burn through the film. So, they could put a dirty image. Very famously, I guess in every Betty Boop cartoon, there's a frame of film where she's topless.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But you can't see it. The human eye can't
pick it up.
Can't
right.
pick it up.
Because it's going by too fast.
But now that everything's on video and high def, you can freeze frame.
Hold on, Bill. Every Betty Boop. Wait. Okay.
I think they've probably taken great pains to correct all those before they put them out on video now.
Jeez, Pete's.
Because they know how perverted everyone is these days.
Man, oh man. So this was earlier on in your career. This is before Little Mermaid was before. Okay, wow. And then yet Matt Groening still wanted to work with you. That's amazing.
True. I don't know if he knew that story when he hired me, but
Well, no, you probably would have made more money. Okay, so
Hey, fellas,
yeah,
Yes.
we just polled everyone here in the control room. We agreed we would all smash Betty Boop. Just for the record.
okay. Thank you so much.
So now we know who's going to be like freeze framing every cartoon.
even with that
Yeah.
big, such a big head for such a lovely lady. But anyways, all right.
I guess even in Roger Rabbit, they tried to do that
Yeah.
because there's the scene where she's in the ink and paint club
Oh.
serving drinks
yeah.
to Eddie Valiant, and the animators tried to
Sneak it by.
sneak in a frame of her top falling down, just kind of like falling down and then back up.
Interesting.
And somebody caught it and they were like, nope, you're not doing it.
I heard that I think it's on the Laserdisc version. There's a scene that takes place in a men's room, and evidently there was a Disney executive's phone number written on the wall that people started calling.
That was in the scene. I think that was the scene where Eddie Valiant gets the tire instead of the parachute. Like Bugs Bunny gives him the tire, and Bugs and Mickey are on parachutes.
Okay.
I think it was that
when he's in
scene.
Toontown.
Yeah, because I think you go past like a bathroom, and there's something that says for a good time call Alice in Wonderland.
Oh.
And then there's an executive's phone number. Yeah.
Okay. Man.
Anyway, what I was getting at was, animators have always hid things in films back in the day when you couldn't detect them.
Right.
But now, why would you? Because it's going to be found out. Why would I do what everyone says I did?
Right.
I would lose my job. I'd never work again.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's stupid. I mean, I don't think anyone
And
would
plus,
do it.
it's like it's easier. I think it's easier for people to. I mean, the first Karen, it's easier to complain about, and it's like, what are you doing? But
The original story was that it was a disgruntled Disney
that's what I
artist.
heard too. That's what.
Yeah,
And then I
that's
met
what
you.
I heard, yeah.
That's
Got
what I
fired.
heard. That's what I heard. And then I met you because you brought the Little Mermaid poster into the gallery
Yeah.
for us to sell, and I was like, and you're like, yeah, I did that. I was like, huh?
Are you disgruntled?
Yeah.
Well, I never worked for Disney. I worked for this outside studio.
Exactly.
We contracted with Disney. So that was wrong from the beginning. But then the story it changed every time somebody told it. It was like that game of telephone.
Right.
Where you repeat a story, but you make it a little bit better, a little more juicy every time. And it went from disgruntled artists who got fired, and then somebody decided to add why he got fired, and added he got fired because they found out he was gay.
Well, that story tracks.
Well, today it doesn't sound like a believable thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nobody would fire somebody for being gay, but back in the 80s, that could happen.
Yeah.
And then it was not only was he gay, but he had AIDS. They found out he had AIDS, so that's why they were firing him.
Man.
And it kept changing and getting more and more extreme until finally, like the last version I heard. And I would hear this, like I'd go into a comic shop and I'd hear people talking about it, and I'd hear like a different version of it. And the last one I heard was they fired him because he was gay, had AIDS, and they caught him conducting satanic rituals in the office after hours.
But boy, oh boy, could he draw.
I just like how it just gets so ridiculous.
So wild.
Yeah.
So wild. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. See, you heard it here.
We're setting the record
Set the
straight.
record straight, from the, come on.
Straight from the horse's mouth, ladies
Get
and
over
gentlemen.
it. Get over it. All right. Now, let's just jump forward. So we went forward, now we went back. Let's go back now. Now you're Futurama. You're doing. When do you get approached about you do the Beatles comic book now?
Yes. I was approached in 1997 by Dark Horse Comics.
Which Dark Horse is also Spawn? No.
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 That's Image.
Dark Horse used to do or still does Hellboy.
Okay, yeah,
Hellboy.
sure. Okay, so
Yeah.
okay. It's for the people, Bill. I'm sorry.
They did a lot of licensed things like Planet of the Apes and
Okay.
They had Star Wars for a
Oh,
while.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Predator, things
Yeah.
like
Okay,
that.
so now they approach you about the Beatles.
Yeah, so they had made a deal with Apple to do an adaptation of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine for the 30th anniversary of the film.
Okay.
So this is 1997. And I got a call one day and they wanted me to write it, which, not really adapt it from the film and draw it. And it was going to be 48 pages. And I got really excited. And of course I said yes, hung up the phone. And then I realized, I don't know, as a Beatles fan and a fan of the film, I don't know why I would want to read this. Why wouldn't I just watch the film? Why wouldn't I just get the video and watch it?
Interesting. There we go. We got some of the imagery there.
Yeah. So why would I want to read a version of this thing that I love that doesn't have the Beatles music and doesn't have animation? So I couldn't, at first I couldn't get behind doing it, even though I'd already just accepted the job. So I started thinking about blacklight posters. And I thought about the psychedelic posters that I used to have on my wall when I was a kid. And I thought, if I lean into the graphic arts, the strengths of graphic arts, and do something on the printed page that they couldn't do in the film, and that is give it
Penises.
a sense of I just opened you up for that one, didn't I? Just do things graphically that they couldn't do in the film.
Right.
Maybe try to make as many pages as possible look like psychedelic posters. Do weird things with the panel design, stuff like that. So that's what I did. That's what allowed me to kind of get excited about it again. And I started working on it. I got the cover done, and I got about 25 pages done. And then they called me, Dark Horse called me, and they said, don't do anything else. We're going to pay you for what you've done, but we don't think the project's going to go any further. And that I heard two reasons why. One was that Apple had decided that they thought comic books were too lowbrow, and they wanted to only do like more high-class merchandise. And I was like, come on, you did Yellow Submarine keychains. Give me a break.
That's my favorite. That's what I wear to balls.
Yeah. So the other thing was George Harrison's company was called Dark Horse Records.
Oh.
And I also heard that he kind of raised objections because if the comic was bad, he thought that his company might, people might assume it came from him. So anyway, it went away. And I just had the pages in a drawer for years. I started showing them on the internet. There was a comic book website called Comic Book Resources that had seen them and did an article on this, Lost Beatles project. And so it gained a little more notoriety and some interest. And then Charlie Kochman at Abrams Books had seen the pages, and he really wanted to publish it. He wanted me to finish the graphic novel. And so he started talking to Apple, introduced me to them, and that's how it got resurrected. And it ended up not being done with Abrams because they couldn't come to terms on a deal. But it ended up going to Titan, which is a UK comic company that also does toys, and they already had the Beatles toy license. So I guess Apple decided they would be a better fit. But they expanded the page count to 96 pages, and I was able to finish it and, kind of do it right, not have to cut too many corners.
Well,
Wow.
That's
Now
yeah.
you work pretty fast, don't you?
I wouldn't say that.
No, because it seems like when I see the output of your work, it seems like you get a lot done in a relatively short amount of time.
I don't know. It's kind of hard being myself and being on my side of that question. I don't think I work fast enough.
Well, I don't know anybody that's ever worked freelance that thinks they work fast.
Yeah,
enough, so.
I think I procrastinate and I spend way too much time looking for research
Yeah.
because I like it. I enjoy that part of the process. So I'll spend hours just like going through books, trying to get inspiration or looking for a specific piece of reference or something like that.
But that just
So-
that just makes the work better though. You know?
Yeah, it does. But I think it's an important part of the process, but I do think it kind of slows me down. And I do see a lot of other artists who just get right to it. They don't waste a lot of time doing that. And I don't know. I just wish I was faster.
I heard a thing about architects who are really good architects. Some architects will sit down, all of a sudden they'll start just doing, working on it. And other architects, the good architects will start just sketching and just doodling and and procrastinating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are the architects that are, famous and things like that.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those artists that does like rough sketching to try to get the idea out,
Yeah.
and then I do overlays. I keep refining it.
Sure, I mean I think that's the way to go. I mean, try to to get it out of the gate. It's ridiculous.
That's how you make a quality piece of work is
100%.
by, going through the sketching process and refining, the image, refining your vision. I think it's something I try to do more of. I just get impatient, but I know a lot of artists who do it, and it's a trait I really aspire to.
One of the things I've noticed about myself, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, is my drawing. Even like if I'm drawing, say, Bart Simpson, who I've drawn a million times. I'll draw him, and then if I flip the page and look at it on a light box to see it in reverse, looks totally off.
Yeah.
And
But if you notice, if you do that with a photograph also, if you flip a photograph in like Photoshop or something, the person won't look right.
yeah, I mean they look different, but they still don't look. It's hard to describe, but like eyes won't be straight.
Yep.
They won't be on the same line. And I'll look at it. I'll look at the drawing the right side, the right way, and it generally looks fine.
So
And then I flip it, and it's totally off.
So speaking of things not being right, when you did this really famous, beautiful, sort of Sergeant Pepper's Simpsons thing, right? That image based
For
off
the Simpsons, the Yellow album.
The Yellow album.
yeah, the yellow album.
Joel, if you could call up image number 3,
There we go. We got it up right there.
Yes.
So and then another artist has what would you put it? I don't
Name
wanna-
him. Call him out.
Well,
'Cause
Cause.
Because,
He's
The
got,
man is a thief.
He's got a totally mediocre sculpture right by of sort of what's that area
right by
called?
Campus Martius.
Campus Martius of supposed Mickey Mouse and holding hand, whatever. Anyways, it's totally mediocre. It's skull and bones, crossed out eyes, and there's Cause made $30 million, I think, selling a painting or something like that on auction, and he just basically took your stuff, trace it out, supposedly. Whatever the word is that we have to say to be legal, and
Cause himself didn't make that much money because the from the story that I heard, after he did the art,
Yeah.
he either sold it or gave it to, I think, a person he was working with in Japan.
Sure.
And I don't know if that person sold it recently or if it was
It went to
if
auction.
it went from hand to hand to hand.
I mean, secondary market is.
it did go to auction and brought almost $15 million.
That's okay. 50 million. Yeah.
I don't know that Cause got any of that.
Well, secondary market, probably not. No.
Yeah.
No.
So it became a big story. A lot of people asked me about it. People wanted me, I think, to be more outraged than I was.
Right.
For one thing, he didn't take any money out of my pocket because I did this, as a work for hire.
Sure.
And Fox owns the image, or now
Right.
Disney owns the image.
Right.
So if anybody's going to sue anybody over plagiarism,
I'm just surprised
It would have to be them.
It hasn't happened, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm surprised a Disney lawyer hasn't
Right.
done something about it. But anyway, I was more just kind of, I don't know, flabbergasted, for lack of a better word, that somebody could take, my image and just trace it
Right.
and change a few things, put X's over I's
Yeah.
and add some clown hair or whatever. And then, call it theirs. And I mean, I don't know Cause, and I don't know to what extent
Heard he's a nice guy.
I don't know to what extent he personally did or didn't give credit, but the thing that annoyed me the most was there was a magazine article about the art sale,
Right.
and they described it as Cause doing a parody of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper cover. So it totally
Cut you out. Yeah,
Cut you
cut
out.
the rod out of the middle.
It made it look like he
Interesting.
was doing a Simpsonized interpretation of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, which is what I did. He just copied my piece.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what annoyed me. I don't know if I have anything really against.
No.
Cause
Well,
I mean, we've talked about it on the show plenty of times. I don't like when somebody's just blatantly copying somebody else's work like that.
Yeah.
Especially as a comic artist, there are artists in the comic industry who have been just drummed out of the industry
Yeah.
for
like
copying other artists.
Liechtenstein and all that, with Russ and all that stuff. So we have 1 minute left. Bill.
If you could put up the QR code again, please.
Put the QR code. I'm sorry. I'm going to be selfish because we are a Wyandotte. We're at Wyandotte Connects, and Bill, you're a Lincoln Park guy. You've done. I'm sorry, dude, but
Zoop. ZOOP.GG.
check out the Zoop. Check out the Zoop. Please support that stuff.
Roswell.
I am, or I should say, I was Wyandotte adjacent.
Or sorry, you're
I think that account- I think
you're
that
a link.
counts.
You're a Downriver dude. I
Yeah.
mean, old school, but
I was born here. I was born in Wyandotte General.
Yeah, so was Lee Majors, okay? No, and Lucille Ball, whatever. No, dude, everyone claims. Anyways, okay, I'm wrapping up. But
Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. Good Guys Radio. Email us at goodguysradio@gmail.com with any questions or comments about the show. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Watch our shows on YouTube by searching for The Good Guys
That's
Show.
right. Yeah.
Or go to our Facebook page and click the links.
what Tony wanted to tell you, too, is that Art First happened in second week of July. You should come out.
This is going to air in August, dude.
It's not going to air in August. No, it's going to air before. We're going to put it up before. But, Bill, thank you, man. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
We
much.
really
Thanks,
appreciate you
guys.
taking the time.
Thank you, man.
I would love to come back for another one. This is fun.
Another 4 hour, yeah. All right.
Peace.